So, let us move on with the opening passage. We will see a couple of more lines than what we read last time. But to get the continuity, let me read the whole passage again. Fate followed her foreseen immutable road. Man's hopes and longings build journeying wheels that bear the body of his destiny and lead his blind will towards an unknown goal. His fate within him shapes his acts and rules. His face and form are already born in him. His parentage is in a secret soul. Here, matter seems to mold the body's life, and the soul follows where its nature drives. Nature and fate compel his free will's choice. But greater spirits this balance can reverse and make the soul the artist of his fate. This is the mystic truth our ignorance hides. Doom is a passage for our inborn force. Our ordeal is a hidden spirit's choice. Anarchy is our being's own decree. All was fulfilled the heart of Savitri, flower sweet and adamant, passionate and calm, had chosen and on a strand's unbending road, forced to its issue a long cosmic curve. So the yogi poet was describing the compulsion of fate. Against that compulsion of fate, what the greater spirits can do. And in that context, he is bringing out the nature, the character, the firmness, the determination of Savitri. All was fulfilled the heart of Savitri, flower sweet and adamant, passionate and calm, had chosen and on a strand's unbending road, forced to its issue in a long cosmic curve. It is Savitri who is forcing the issue. She is already described as the greatest spirit. She is now here to force the issue. Her heart is calm and passionate and adamant, firm, inflexible, unmoving. And her strength is there, which can even make the road bend the way she would like it to bend. In other words, in this particular passage, we already have the native spirit of Savitri coming out in its greatness. She is going to make things happen the way she would like them to happen. Fate is there, but she can prove herself to be mightier, stronger than fate. This is the whole thrust of the opening passage of the book of Yoga. Now, in order that she has her will exercised the way she would like things to happen, she has to do yoga. So in that sense, this is a very beautiful introduction, a preface to the book of yoga itself. Savitri is getting now ready to launch herself on yoga, on the yogic path. She does not know how to begin with. That will happen. But the yogi is already seeing the way things will happen. And therefore he is telling us right in the beginning, well, here is Savitri, a greater spirit, and it can reverse the path. It can change the balance of things. It can make the soul the artist of its fate. Soul the artist of its fate. Savitri has to acquire divine power, the power of the Mahashakti in her soul, and then only the unbending road can be bent the way she would like it to bend and make it move on her own path. So fate followed her, forcing a mutable road would again mean that, well, it is Savitri who is going to willing a certain course of action to happen, and she will make them happen, and fate will be bound to follow that road of Savitri. But as I said earlier also, this has become prominent, has come into focus, because Narad has already told her about the death of Satyavan 1 year after the marriage. Her soul got awakened with that word. And even before Narad had pronounced the statement that 12 swift winged months are given to him and her, she had already told her father, to all the elders, to her mother, in the presence of Narad, yes, I have chosen Satyavan as my life's partner. And she asserts, this is done. She asserts, this is done. Her will is adamant, firm, maybe passionate also, but there is calm strength in those 3 words. This is done. Whether he is poor, whether he is living in a forest, whether he has no royalty to match with my status, I don't care at all about those matters. They are not of any consequence to me. I have chosen him, and this is done. Narad has not yet revealed about the death of Satyavan. But something sprang up from the soul of Savitri, and she affirms her resolve. So, all was fulfilled. The heart of Savitri had chosen. Savitri had chosen this one, and now fate is going to fulfill what she has chosen to do. All was fulfilled. The heart of Savitri. Now this construction of these 4 lines is a little complex kind of a construction poetically. The prose sense is simply like this. Whatever the heart of Savitri had chosen, that was fulfilled. That is the plain sense of the passage. Whatever the heart of Savitri had chosen, that was fulfilled. Now this is statement coming right at the beginning for the canto, for the book of Yoga. All was fulfilled. How? Fate will follow her road now, what Savitri has chosen. This is done. I don't care what is going to happen there. And she is going to follow that road. Everything is fulfilled in that sense. In terms of the story, we can say that Savitri was happy that in spite of the announcement made by Narad everybody had agreed to what she had proposed. And in that sense, in the matters of family thinking, ideas, concepts, she won the battle. She won over her mother. Her father had no difficulty at all in accepting what Savitri had chosen, because he had already seen in his yogic vision what is standing behind all these events. His mother was perturbed. She had even started accusing the god of Narad. But Savitri is firm, and finally she resigns herself. Savitri's mother resigns to what Savitri had chosen to do. This is done. And in that sense, the heart of Savitri was fulfilled. That now she will be proceeding to live in the hermitage. She will be taken to the Shelva woods and left in the hermitage with her parents-in-law, with her husband, with all the sages of the woods, in the company of those holy people, in the greatness, she will be left there. And there, all that she had chosen to do, that will get fulfilled. And in that sense again, her strength's unbending road, will force the issue. Her strength will force the issue of fate, the death, which is standing across a greater thing to happen. A greater thing has to happen, and death is proving to be an obstacle. It is that which will be removed on the unbending road. All was fulfilled. The heart of Savitri had chosen on her strength's unbending road. How is Savitri's heart? The poet describes in 4 beautiful adjectives. Her heart is flower sweet. Her heart is at the same time adamant, firm, like steel, unbending, unyielding. It will not change, get swayed away with things around. Her heart is passionate in the sense that there is a full thrust of life in it, and she will abide by that. It is that life thrust which will carry her forward. But all these things, the sweetness, the flower, the adamantine nature of Savitri, her passion, all are founded on some kind of a luminous, mature, rich, calm. The adhara of all her activities is some kind of a deep calm, and on that deep calm her actions move. So when she says, this is done, it is a very passionate statement. At the same time, it is a very firm statement that she is not going to change at all what she has chosen to do. And because of that, what is going to happen? The cosmic issue, the cosmic curve will take the course which Savitri will desire it to take. It is reinforced that the cosmic events, the universal events will follow her action. Well, a much larger dimension than the individual is already introduced in this passage. Fate here is not for the sake of Savitri. Fate here is not for all those people, human people associated with Savitri, neither in the palace nor in the hermitage. But the relationship of this fate, of her action, of her strength, they are connected with the long cosmic curve. The entire course of the universal movement is what is going to be governed by this action of Savitri. Action based on calm, which is also passionate, which is also firm and unyielding, which is also soft like flower, sweet in its fragrance. All those things are already present in our nature, and it is that which will come forward and get built up in its yogic strength when Savitri begins her yoga. Actually, we have here already indicated by Ashwapati, Savitri's father, even before Narad makes an announcement about the death of Satyavan. I will just read a couple of lines here, just one sentence, and see the connection between the opening passage of the book of Yoga and what Ashwapati saw right at the beginning of the entire development. He tastes Narad. There seems to be something ominous, well, something inauspicious, something which may not be acceptable to the immediate human perception. Still, he says, "You please speak." And he tells Narad, "If thou canst lose her grip, then only speak." Something is holding the course of events in its grip. If Narad has power, capacity to unloosen that grip, then only he is advised to speak out. And the fact that Narad does speak it out, it means that he has the capacity to unloosen the grip of fate. If thou canst lose her grip, then only speak. Perhaps from the iron snare there is escape. Our mind perhaps deceives us with its words and gives the name of doom to our own choice. Savitri has chosen something, and it is our mind which gives to it a doom. Perhaps it is not doom, it is something more than that. Something deeper is significantly concealed in it, and give the name of doom to our own choice. Perhaps the blindness of our will is fate. The blindness of our will is fate. We don't have the knowledge of how things are going to happen tomorrow. We are blind to the future. We don't have the vision, the sight to see the far events. And therefore we say, well, this is the work of fate. In that context, Ashwapati is telling Narad, if you can loosen the grip of that fate, then speak out. Narad takes a deliberate step and speaks out the truth and tells about the death of Satyavan. Savitri is firm. She says, this is done, finished. I am not going to change my decision at all. And then here we have essentially her strands unbending road forced to its issue, the long cosmic curve. So what Narad was told by Ashwapati, that is reiterated by the poet in this particular opening passage of the book of Yoga.